Capcom is on a roll. Resident Evil 2, 3 and 4 remakes, and now Resident Evil Veronica, officially announced and coming in 2027. At this point, Capcom might just be the greatest game remake studio on the planet. But here's the thing, Resident Evil is not only gold in Capcom's vault. There are games sitting in that catalog right now. Games that defined entire genres. Games that had ideas decades ahead of their time. Games that fans have been begging to see remade for years. And Capcom has barely touched them. So today we are counting down 9 Capcom games that deserve a remake after Resident Evil Veronica. Some of these are beloved classics. Some of them are cult hits that never got the audience they deserve. And one of them literally created a genre that basically every major action game today owes its existence to. Let's get into it. Number 9. Lost Planet Extreme Condition. Kicking off our list at number 9 with a game that a lot of people have generally forgotten about, and that's a shame. Lost Planet Extreme Condition came out in 2006 and it was one of the most visually impressive games of its era. You're on EDN 3rd, a frozen planet in middle of an ice age, fighting for survival against giant insect like alien creatures called the Acrid, while managing your thermal energy just to stay alive. That thermal energy mechanic was genuinely clever. It wasn't just your health bar, it was your lifeline. Every fight, every decision was tied to it. The combination of on-foot combat and piloting vital suits, massive mech armor gave the game a scale that felt completely unique at the time, and that's exactly the problem. The first Lost Planet was genuinely special. The sequel went in a weird co-op direction and lost what made the original work. The third game was handed to an outside studio and never recovered, but the core concept of that first game, a survival shooter on a hostile alien ice world with mech combat, massive boss creatures, and a thermal energy system built on the RE engine with modern production values. That is a game people would buy in 2027. Capcom just needs to actually make it. Number 8. Breath of Fire 3. And this one is for every RPG fan who's never wanted Capcom to bring back one of their most beloved and most forgotten series. Breath of Fire is a Japanese RPG franchise that Capcom ran throughout the 90s and early 2000s, 6 games total, and then nothing. The last real entry in the series came out in 2002. Breath of Fire 6 in 2016 was a mobile game with different developers that fans widely considered a betrayal of what the series stood for. Its servers shut down in 2017, and since then, complete silence. Breath of Fire 3 is constantly considered the high point of the entire franchise. Released in 1997 on the original PlayStation, it told the story of Ryu, a boy who could transform into powerful dragon forms on a deeply emotional journey involving gods, destiny, and what it means to choose your own path. The turn-based combat was excellent. The master system, where you apprentice under different characters to learn new skills, was genuinely innovative for its time. The soundtrack is still celebrated today, and here's the most damning fact. When Capcom ran a survey asking fans which franchise they most wanted to see revived, Breath of Fire came in among the top results in North America and Europe, with 71% of voters in Western markets expressing interest. Capcom has the data. They know a Breath of Fire 3 remake on the RE engine with modern visuals, fully voiced cast, and the emotional weight that game deserves would not just be a comeback, it would be a statement. Number 7. Darkstalkers. And this one has been a fan demand for so long that at this point, it almost feels like a running joke. Expect nobody's actually laughing. Darkstalkers is Capcom's gothic, monster-themed fighting game series. First released in 1994 in arcades, it featured a roster of characters pulled straight from classic horror mythology: vampires, werewolves, Scooby, mummies, Catwoman, all done with Capcom's signature fluid animation and technical depth. The gameplay was phenomenal, fast, expressive, layered with mechanics that influenced fighting games for decades. Characters like Morgan Ansland, the vampire Scoobus, who has appeared in basically every Capcom crossover since, became iconic across the entire industry. The visual style was ahead of its time, blending horror and sensuality into something genuinely distinct. The last mainland Darkstalkers game was released in 1997. In the years since, Morgan has appeared in dozens of other games, from Marvel vs. Capcom to Project X Zone. The characters have never gone away. The fans have have never gone away. In 2013, Capcom put out a Darkstalkers collection and then publicly used its sales performance to gauge interest in a new game. When it didn't sell blockbuster numbers as a legacy compilation, as if that's the bar, they shelved any plans for a revival. Street Fighter 6 proved that Capcom can make a world-class fighting game in the modern era. Darkstalkers, rebuilt with that level of production and care, would be unlike anything else in the fighting game market right now. The monster cast, the gothic visual design, the deep mechanics give it the Street Fighter 6 treatment the audience is waiting. Number 6. Mega Man Legends, and this one has a story attached to it that makes the case for a remake better than anything I could write. Mega Man Legends came out in 1997, a completely different take on the Mega Man franchise. Instead of the classic 2D side-scroll formula, Legends was a 3D action-adventure game. You played as Mega Man Walnut, a young digger exploring ruins beneath an ocean-covered world, uncovering a mystery that spanned the entire history of humanity. It was charming, ambitious, and unlike anything Capcom had made before. The sequel came out in 2000 and ended on one of the most unresolved cliffhangers in gaming history. Mega Man Walnut is stranded on the moon. Roll is desperately trying to build a rocket to bring him back home, and then the story just stops. In 2010, Capcom announced Mega Man Legends 3 for Nintendo 3DS. Fans were ecstatic. They set up a fan development room. They let the community vote on character designs, and then 2011, with the prototype version nearly complete, Capcom cancelled it. No real explanation, just gone. Mega Man Walnut has been on the moon for 25 years, and there are fans who are still genuinely angry about it. A Mega Man Legends remake could do two things at once: introduce this unique, beloved world to an entirely new generation, and finally lay the groundwork for a Legends 3 that actually gets made. The story has been waiting for its ending for a quarter of a century. Capcom owes that to the fans who never stopped caring.
Nothing's happening?
Hey, this is no time to ogle pretty girls, son. You looking to get yourself eaten alive by zombies?
What? Did you just say zombies?
Number 5. Dead Rising. This one had a concept so perfectly executed in its original release that it still hasn't been matched. Dead Rising came out in 2006 for Xbox 360, and it was unlike any zombie game before it. You're a Frank West, freelance photojournalist.
Frank West, photojournalist.
Trapped in a massive shopping mall overrun by zombies. You have 72 in-game hours. There are survivors to rescue. There are psychopaths, other humans who have lost their minds to fight, and you can use almost anything you can find in the mall as a weapon. A lawnmower, a giant stuffed bear, a shopping trolley. The game was absurd, funny, and genuinely tense at the same time. The real-time clock system meant every decision mattered. Miss the helicopter? Start again. It had more depth than it appeared. In 2024, Capcom released a Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, a visual upgrade of the original game, which is great, but it's not what fans actually want. What fans want is a full remake. The concept of Dead Rising, an open sandbox zombie survival game where anything can be a weapon and time is always running out, is more relevant now than ever. Games like Dead Island and others have tried to capture that energy and fallen short. Frank West is iconic. The mall setting is iconic. The real-time clock concept is iconic. A full ground-up remake of Dead Rising built for modern hardware with expanded mechanics, more survivors, a bigger mall, and the same widely creative weapon crafting energy. This is a day one purchase for a massive audience. Capcom already knows this work. They just need to fully commit to it. Number 4. Haunting Ground. And this is the hidden gem on the list. The one that a significant portion of the audience might not have even heard of, and that's exactly why it needs a remake. Haunting Ground was released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2. I already talked about it in my early videos. You can check out in the description. It originally began development as a fourth installment in the Clock Tower series, a run and hide horror game where you have no weapons and must survive by hiding from pursuers. The concept evolved into something new, but it kept have that DNA. You play as Fiona Belli, a young woman who wakes up in a strange castle after a car accident. The residents of the castle want her, not to help her, not to rescue her, for reasons that become increasingly disturbing as the story unfolds. You have no weapons. Your only option is to run, hide, and survive. And then there's Huey. Huey is a white German shepherd you find trapped in the castle early in the game. He becomes your companion, your protector, your lifeline. But Huey is a real dog. He responds to how you treat him. Praise him, keep him safe, build that bond, and he will fight for you when you need him most. If you neglect him, and he might not listen when everything depends on it. That mechanic, the emotional bond between Fiona and Huey, is something that has never been replicated properly in any game since. The dread of being hunted through a dark castle by unstoppable pursuers with only a dog by your side. Hunting Ground never sold well. It barely made a splash on release. Physical copies today sell for hundreds of dollars on the secondary market because the demand has only grown. This is exactly the kind of game the RE Engine was built to resurrect. The horror, the tension. Huey, rebuilt for a modern audience. It deserves to be discovered by the world.
Gene, this place reeks.
I know. Wait, you don't expect me to mop up, do you?
Come on, those guys are cake.
Number 3. God Hand. And if you haven't played God Hand, let me just tell you, there's nothing else quite like it. God Hand was developed by Clover Studio and released in 2006, the final game that studio ever made. It was directed by Shinji Mikami, the man behind Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, and Resident Evil 4. And everything about God Hand is completely unhinged in the best possible way. You play as Gene, a martial artist who has been given the legendary God Hands, a pair of divine arms, a divine arm with enough power to fight demons. The story is ridiculous. The enemies are ridiculous. There are suited gorillas. There is a group of tiny gang members you punt like footballs. The game knows exactly what it is and leans all the way into it. But underneath, the comedy is one of the deepest and most technically demanding combat systems ever put in a video game. You could map custom move combinations to your controller. Different enemies require different approaches. The difficulty was brutal and completely intentional. God Hand received mixed reviews on release, including one infamous 3 out of 10 from a major outlet that the internet has never let die. Sales were modest, and then Clover Studio closed. The team went on to form Platinum Games, where that same DNA powered Bayonetta, Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, and Mad World. God Hand is Shinji Mikami's most personal, most unfiltered game. A love letter to classic beat-em-ups with a combat system that has never been matched. A remake would introduce it to the audience it deserved in 2006 and never got. And frankly, at a time when every major action game is borrowing from Platinum Games DNA, which borrowed from God Hand, it would be the ultimate full circle moment. Number 2. Dino Crisis. And this one has been the loudest fan demand in Capcom's entire back catalog for years. The community has been so consistent, so vocal, so relentless about this, that even Capcom can't pretend they don't know. Dino Crisis came out in 1999, directed by Shinji Mikami. Yes, him again. And it was exactly it sounds like, Resident Evil, but with dinosaurs. You play as Regina, a special operations agent sent to investigate a research facility on a remote island. The facility has been overrun, not by zombies, by dinosaurs. And the key difference from Resident Evil was the nature of the threat. Zombies are slow, predictable, you can manage them. Dinosaurs in Dino Crisis were fast, intelligent, and violent. A velociraptor didn't just shamble toward you, it hunted you, it flanked you. The terror was completely different. The game sold over 2.4 million copies on PlayStation alone, earning it a premium title designation with Capcom. Dino Crisis 2 shifted more toward action. Dino Crisis 3 sent the dinosaurs to space, genuinely, and the series never recovered. The last real entry was 2003, over 2 decades ago. In 2024, Capcom ran a fan survey asking which franchises they most like to see revived. Dino Crisis came in at the top. New Dino Crisis merchandise launched in Japan in 2025. The original game and its sequel arrived on GOG, then Steam, in early 2026. And when the producer of Resident Evil Veronica was recently asked about Dino Crisis, his response was, "I have no no comment. Even though I know the answer, something is happening. It might not be announced yet, but the signals are pointing in one direction. I also talk about this game in my last top 9 remake video. You can see in the description. A Dino Crisis remake on the RE engine with the same survival horror commitment as RE2 remake. Real-time 3D environments, intelligent dinosaurs AI, and Regina finally getting the treatment she deserves would be one of the biggest game announcements of the decade. And the moment it drops, the internet will lose its mind.
Devil May Cry.
And we are at number 1, the game that, more than any other title on this list, changed the course of gaming history. Devil May Cry 2001 PlayStation 2. Here is the thing that a lot of people don't know. Devil May Cry was not originally conceived as Devil May Cry. It began as a prototype for Resident Evil 4. The prototype was directed by Hideki Kamiya, and it was pushing towards something more stylish, more action focused. Shinji Mikami, the executive producer, took one look at it and said, "This has drifted too far from Resident Evil." Rather than scrapped it, they spun it off as its own game, and that decision changed gaming history. Devil May Cry introduced Dante, half human, half demon, a pistol in each hand, a sword on his back, and the coolest entrance in gaming history. The combat was built around style. You weren't just trying to survive, you were trying to look incredible while doing it. Every kill was graded, every combo had a score. The style system, from D all the way up to S, was a completely new way to think about action game combat. Before Devil May Cry, there was no stylish action genre. Within years of its release, the genre it created had spawned God of War, Bayonetta, Metal Gear Rising, Ninja Gaiden, and dozens more. Games that collectively sold hundreds of millions of copies. Every one of them owes a debt to what Dante started in 2001. Devil May Cry sold over 2 million copies. It launched one of Capcom's most important franchises. DMC5 came out in 2029 and was a massive critical and commercial success. The Netflix animated series introduced a whole new generation to Dante and Virgil, and the original game, the one that started everything, has never been remade. You can play it in the HD collection, which is a decent port, but a full remake? The 2001 game rebuilt from the ground up with modern combat depth, the RE engine's visuals, a fully realized Marlet Island, and Dante at his most iconic. Capcom has officially confirmed that a Devil May Cry revival is in the works. What form that takes, we don't know yet, but the case for going back to the beginning is overwhelming. Dante created a genre. It's time to show the world where it all started. And that's our list, 9 Capcom games that deserves a remake after Resident Evil Veronica. From the forgotten frozen world of Lost Planet in the emotional wand that is Mega Man Legends 3 to the genre-defining madness of God Hand, Capcom's back catalog is one of the greatest untapped archives in gaming. They've proven with Resident Evil that they know how to take a classic and make it not just relevant but essential. The question is whether Capcom is brave enough to give it to them. Drop a comment below where Capcom game do you want remade the most, and if Dino Crisis actually get announced, I want to hear the reaction in the comments the day it drops. You can also check out my other top 9 videos, and I also made the video of Resident Evil Veronica remake. If you want to know everything about the Resident Evil Veronica remake before it releases, we got a full breakdown and wishlist video right here on the channel. Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace. Keep gaming.